Hey everybody, this is JP with InkSoft, and I have an important message to share in this video. And this message has to do with cash flow. Specifically, how can you use a sales presentation to drive cash flow, to get paid upfront 100% in full? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but first I want to kind of establish some background and context and really share with you how we got to this topic. So InkSoft is a sponsor of ShirtLab, which is an awesome industry event held in different cities around the country. Each ShirtLab event is a different theme. At any rate, as a result of being a sponsor, we get to participate in the private Facebook group for ShirtLab attendees. And we were really blown away with the feedback from the ShirtLab St. Louis event. Now, one of the topics that was discussed and there was education built around in St. Louis was this notion of cash flow and getting paid upfront in full. And really the battle cry and the challenge was, hey, change your policies and tell your customers that you expect payment in full upfront to initiate the job. Now, this is in contrast to kind of the status quo and the way things have always been, which is offering up net terms and offering 50% deposit to initiate a job in hopes that the client will pay you at the end of the process. And really, that doesn't really align with today's modern consumer who expects to pay for goods upfront, because that is the Amazon effect. If you want something from Amazon, you pay for it and then it's delivered to you. If you're shopping online, you pay for something and it's delivered to you. So with that said, this old convention of deposits and terms doesn't necessarily align with today's consumer. There is not this expectation to put down a deposit or pay in 30 days' time. So seeing the momentum and this awesome feedback and results from that St. Louis challenge and seeing people actually adopt it and getting the positive results that they expected, really drove me to put this video together. So now that you kind of understand the background and the strategy, of course, accelerating cash flow and getting paid up front is going to help everybody's financial health. But let me kind of give you some perspective of how the InkSoft platform can help, again, accelerate cash flow and ensure that you're getting paid up front. So InkSoft, of course, offers 3 selling tools, right? Online stores, so you can build a custom branded online store for any of your customers. They're great for groups, when you need to service a group with individual buyers. But here is that Amazon e-commerce effect. Here on screen, we have an example of an online store. Now, what do you see at the very bottom? What is the primary action? Proceed to checkout. So again, today's consumer, when they're on an online store and they're in a familiar e-commerce environment, they expect to proceed to checkout, where they're going to put their billing and shipping information, and they're going to make payment in order to receive their goods. So again, when I talk about the sales presentation and the sales layer, this is exactly what we're talking about, is if we give a consumer a familiar experience and environment, we should expect a familiar behavior and outcome, which is proceed to checkout, make payment, and go. Well, let's toggle now to another InkSoft sales tool, which is our online designer, the Design Studio. So in this case, if I'm a consumer and I'm designing something custom and I click next step in order to check out and make payment, well, as soon as I enter in my product, sizes and quantities and I get the price, well, I'm going to be greeted with an option to buy now. Again, a familiar environment and e-commerce experience. Buy now, check out, make payment, and then I'll receive my custom products. So let's look at another sort of sales tool and use case, which is InkSoft's proposal solution, which is a significantly better way to, initiate a visual sales presentation. And it sort of acts in the background as an invoice, right? But nonetheless, if you were to send somebody an approval where you expect for them to approve and then pay, you can see that primary action here, approve and pay. Lastly, if you choose to use InkSoft proposals to initiate an invoice, you can see the primary action here is pay now. So really, accelerating cash flow is a business decision. We are committed to getting paid in full upfront. It's a business policy. We're going to make that clear to all of our customers. That's the first step, and that's the advice and judgment, again, that resulted from the ShirtLab event in St. Louis. And we saw folks adopt it, and they were terrified because it's change, right? They assumed their customers would reject. But most of the feedback was my customers didn't even balk. There was no resistance, so there was no challenge to requesting payment in full, because today's consumer is conditioned to pay for the goods that they expect to be delivered. So with that said, the next part of the accelerating cash flow methodology is your sales presentation. So if you're using sales tools, that invoke a familiar experience like e-commerce, well, you should expect, again, a familiar outcome, which is your customers proceeding to checkout or paying now to receive their goods. So I just wanted to kind of bridge that gap between this movement that's happening in our industry, which I think is super healthy and super positive, and bridge that with how you can use software and an interface and a sales presentation layer to drive the experience. Now, of course, if you're not using InkSoft, there's probably ways to engineer a sales process and an experience to help, again, take advantage of what we've shared and talked about today. Now, if you're not an InkSoft user, we'd encourage you to reach out to our team to get a tour to see how you can use InkSoft, just like the thousands of decorators across the country, to, again, accelerate your sales growth, accelerate cash flow, which is obviously two important factors to the financial health of any business. So certainly reach out to us. You can visit us at inksoft.com or give us a call, and we'll schedule a one-on-one personalized tour of the InkSoft platform. Well, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you got some meaning out of our video today, and definitely dig into some of the content circulating this topic. We're going to continue to track it to watch, again, existing customers adopt this methodology and get positive results from it. So expect us to come back to keep talking about getting paid upfront in full and accelerating cash flow.